we here today? We're here to learn, we're here to grow, and I hope we're here to be inspired. We have some amazing writers in this club, and from time to time, I like to pick their brains and have them reveal their secrets. So, we're going to do a panel in the first part before the break, and then we're going to come back and do a completely different panel with different members in the second half. So, as we're talking together, if you have a question, this club is for you. This meeting is for you. You came expecting to take something back. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions. Get your questions answered, because this is your meeting. So if I could have Marilyn Ramirez, Mary Thompson-Lujan, Mike Raff, and Laura Mills, please come to the table. And if you can, take a seat and then turn your sign around so everybody can see. Actually, I'll help. Yeah. Bring them out to the edge. Okay, I have a series of questions. But you know what, before I do that, let me just have you guys introduce yourselves quickly. You know, one or two sentences. How would you describe yourself as a writer?
My name is Marilyn Ramirez, and I would describe myself as a writer as looking for something different every time. When I write, I don't just write one type of book. I write Amish, I write historical fiction, Christian fiction, and it's an adventure for me. So it's just something I wanted to do. I've been in the club since February of 2008, and when there was only 5 people, and it's really great to see how many people are out there now.
I'm Mary Langer Thompson-Lujan, and I'm an evolving writer, like Marilyn, and always doing something different and learning something new. And I joined the club in 2009.
I'm Michael Raff. I'm honored to be here with such talent. Been a member since 2011 and counting. I write a little bit of everything. My specialty is, we call it now, supernatural thrillers, don't we? I have 10 books and counting, self-published. I'm working on my 11th. And everybody's heard the story how I fell in love with writing at 13, so you don't need to hear that story again.
Hi, I'm Laura Mills. I've been a member since, I think, 2022, I think. I can't remember. I mainly write historical romance. I read it when I was younger, and I always like a happy ending, so I decided to write my own stories. I just love storytelling, love stories, and I'm open to writing different types of romance, contemporary, action adventure, but right now it's mainly historical because I love to research history, and then the romance part, of course.
Okay, so you have a microphone and I have a microphone. So I'm going to be asking questions, and you guys will be passing the microphone to each other, especially if somebody really has something they want to share. Just make sure the microphone gets back to them, please. Okay, these wonderful people were chosen because they are prolific writers. They write, and they write, and they write. They produce amazing amounts of writing, and they just keep doing it. And we want to encourage all of this club to follow their model, follow their example, and keep writing. So my first question is, how do you do it? How do you keep writing? You've written your last book. How do you say, okay, I'm going to keep going. I've got to get the next book going. How do you continue on and on and on?
Okay, my answer is that even though I'm in the middle of a story, I've got 2 or 3 other stories going at the same time. And it happens because maybe I've seen something down the road, maybe I saw somebody walking by, look sad, and my mind might say, what's going on with that person? Maybe a road trip, and I've seen an orange grove that looks terrible, and my mind's saying, somebody can take over that orange grove, and the reason why, blah, blah, blah. I keep yellow notepads with me all the time, the little ones, in my purse, in my car, in my bathroom, in my kitchen, everywhere. So that if a thought comes to me, I'm jotting down, and sometimes it's for this book or that book or this book, and I file them. I make a file and I keep track of what these are going for. So the story I'm starting this month, I've been putting stuff in this file for years and pulling it out. Some things are going to change, some things are new, but it's keeping my eyes open to what's going on around the world and hearing things going on that create ideas for stories for me.
I think like Marilyn, I always have a lot of projects going. I have a lot of projects at home that aren't finished. Usually projects take me from 3 to 10 years to complete. And I think when my husband passed, I thought, why am I writing? And I thought, if not for my family, because a lot of times your family doesn't really care, or like my son found a book in his bookcase and said, my mom ought to read this. And then he said, you wrote it. Yeah. So I don't really write for my family. I think I write like that sign that used to be around, Kilroy was here, just to show my legacy that I was here and what it was like for me and my family.
Well, it's easy to continue for me because it's something I love. The problem is to stop, because I wrote Surviving My Career as a Psychiatric Technician. I thought, that's it, that's gonna, I can't top that. And it's a non-horror, and it's a lot of personal things in there, and that's it. That's supposed to be my finale, and I couldn't stop, So what do I do for an encore? And my most popular horror book was Skeleton Man, and I keep getting compliments, and it had the most positive reviews on Amazon, so I had just a couple ideas, and it comes to me. It just comes to me. I sit down, and all these ideas float, and so now I'm done with a first draft, and I'm going through it, and it should be done by, well, it could be done pretty soon, but I think I'll wait till December. So it's just in my blood, and I don't have any issues, so I'll probably be writing the rest of my life.
I just have a passion for writing, for telling love stories. I don't know how else to. I did put it off for a while. I wrote a book in 2000, my first book, and I didn't write another book for 15 years. My husband and I had a machine shop, and I helped him there. And I put it off and put it off. Finally, I started writing again, and I don't know what else to say. When I, when I was 16, 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 I when I wrote my third book, I hired a professional editor, and she went through it with me, not just regular copy editing, but developmental editing, so I learned a lot. And that book ended up winning gold for Best Historical Romance when I entered it in the Global eBook Awards in 2018. And this might go off and do a different thing here, but it's part of what I'm trying to say. Now, I knew in my mind this isn't the best book in the world, but I doubted myself after that book to start another one because I thought, how can I compete with that one? How can I write a better book? That one won gold. That doubt started going in my mind, that mindset. And so I finally, after 5 years, started my next book and hired the same editor. And what really made an impact on me is she made some comments that I had not remembered what I had learned. Like I was starting all over with corrections stuff in my writing. That motivated me to keep writing, and because I didn't want to lose that once I learned it again with her. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling. That made a big impact because I have a passion to write, but I would put it off helping at the machine shop, and finally the desire was just there. But then when I let 5 years go by, and and then she said after that fourth book that I had improved even from the third book that won the award. So that motivated me, and my age, to be honest. I'm getting older, I have all these stories started, and it takes me a year to write a story, so I don't know if I answered the question. I kind of rambled, sorry.
No, in fact,
I took a passion for writing, I don't know what I
no, one of the things that I picked up from all of you was have multiple projects going. And I think it's a fallacy that probably many writers go into where they say, well, I have one project and I'm going to focus 100% on that project and I'm not going to think about anything else. But having multiple projects, you may not start them, but just like Marilyn said, you have a place to put ideas as they come to you. But you're really working on this book here, but you're also, as you find things that would work in these other stories, you just plug them in. You just plug them in and keep going. It would be difficult if you were only working on one project to suddenly finish it, and then what do you do now? And now you've got to look for something to do. But to have those multiple projects going, that is a really good point. Also, I heard from Mike and from Laura, one of the biggest obstacles you had, both of you, was how do I top that? I've just done my best work ever. Anything I do after this is going to be subpar, it's going to be inferior. I don't want people saying, well, yeah, he wrote a really great book, but boy, have you seen the latest one? It's just not up to speed. That obstacle, that's very important to point out because we doubt our growth. We doubt our own growth. And I loved it, Laura, when you said that lady told you, no, you're better now. You're a better writer now than you were back then. We're always growing. We're always growing. So my question to Mary and to Marilyn is, what are your obstacles? What are the things that you have to overcome in order to keep writing? Oh yeah, you got it. Go ahead.
Well, one of my obstacles is time. I have a large family. My husband and I, starting from the top down, we have 97 of us in the family. We have 9 children, so over 40-some years, our kids have had kids who've had kids. And everybody seems to think that mom or grandma has the answers all the time. So I'm sought after, and sometimes I wear hearing aids, and there are days I just take them off. I just tell them I'm writing, and later they say, Mom, we kept calling, we thought something was wrong. And, no, I was writing. And when I take my hearing aids off, I don't hear anything. And that's when I get some real writing done. So, but time is the biggest one. Right now there's some issues going on with my husband, so that takes time. It's time, more than anything.
I would say time too, but it's funny how like if you have to go someplace and you can't write, that place has some kind of situation that you can use in your writing. Like something bizarre happens or somebody says something so off the wall that you think, I can use that. So even though you're in other places besides at your desk writing, you're a writer. You're noticing things in a different way than other people notice them. And it could be years later that that appears in your writing in some way. So I think that's how you have to look at things. You know, things need to get done, life happens, but I like to write about life. So I have even been known to engineer a situation in order to write about it, like go up in a hot air balloon or something like that, and then purposely go with the purpose of, I'm gonna write about this in some way. So it's, when you're a writer, it's a blending of your life experience with your writing. And I think if you look at life that way, then those interruptions, even if they're tragic, you can use in your writing, and the experience becomes part of you.
You want me to answer?
Yeah.
Well, I procrastinate. So sometimes I don't get to the computer to 2 o'clock, and then it just time flies by, and I look, oh, it's 5 o'clock? It's unfair, you know. But when I get going, I really get going. But there was a time when surviving Joyce passed, and it was therapeutical. It was amazing. I would write 10 pages, 12 pages in one day and night. It just, you know, grieving, and it just, I don't know. I think surviving saved me. It just really helped. And I'm just so glad it was there, you know. I was just destiny that I would be working on that book. So now, you know, with this book, you know, I just know that I was meant to write. It's just a part of me, and you know, whether I write 2 hours or 4 hours a day, you know, it's there. It's there for me to do, and whatever happens in my life, you know, it's there. It's part of me.
And if you don't have anything, that's fine.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to add something to what Mike was saying. We have critique groups here in the club, and Freddie Gold, who has moved away, she lives in Arizona now, but she's still part of our club. She and I are in a critique group together, and we were in a critique group with Richard Zone. Richard Zone has passed away, but in the last couple of years that we were in our group with him, his wife had died, and Richard would meet with us, and he had writing, and we were critiquing his stuff, but the anniversary of his wife's death came, and it hit him in a way that he didn't expect, we didn't expect, and he stopped writing. He just said, I can't do it. He would go sit at the computer, nothing would happen, and because he was in our group, and because we loved him so much, we told him, okay, we don't care. We enjoy being with you. We appreciate you. This group is what it is because you're in it. Please keep coming. We don't care if you submit writing. We don't care if you're not writing. We don't care how long it takes for you to get back on the horse and write. It took a year. It took a year. And we met faithfully for that year, and we encouraged Richard, and we let him know it's no problem. And then when that year was over, it's like the floodgates opened. He wrote 2 entire books and then he passed away. And Jenny and I have been working on those books, and it won't be long. Now they're in the hands of the family, and once we get the thumbs up, we're going to publish those books in Richard's honor. So again, that's why we're in this club together, because writing's hard, and we need friends, and we need people who are not demanding of us or pushing us or threatening us. We need people who understand us and give us space and let us work through the things we need to work through. And it's going to hit us differently. Mike, writing was therapeutic. That's how he got through. Richard, it was not writing. That was therapeutic for him. That's how he got through. Okay. So my next question for you. How do you, now Marilyn, you've already said how you do this, but how do the rest of you, how do you get ready for the next book? What do you put in place in order to get the next book you're going to write started? Because I know Laura's just started a new book. Mike he's finished a new book. How do you begin?
I just start writing the ideas down that I've already, jotted down for notes, and go from there. it just comes to me. I don't know how to. I took a little bit of a break, a couple of weeks, but writing for me is a creative outlet, and I need it. I have to create. I want to create. Excuse me. So I think that's why I just continue. I don't know how to explain it except that I need that creative outlet.
Okay,
With
but
everything, I don't know.
your new book,
Yeah.
because I've read the first couple chapters of your new book, it is so different than your other book. You have pulled us out of the environment and put us in a new place. We have new people to deal with. How did you come up with all that?
Just wanted to change with the characters, wanted to have different personalities, and it's fun to write, different. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. But something's going on in you. Something's going on in your head, and all of this is making sense to you.
It's just a bunch of what ifs. What if this happened? What if this happened? When I first started writing my first book, I didn't want my characters to go through anything. And it was a boring book. It's like, how come nobody wants to read it? Because they're not going through anything. I don't want them to get hurt, Now it's like, oh, what if this happened? And what if this? So now I deal with the challenge of what they're going through. I didn't want to deal with it, I guess, at first. But now it's just, hey, if this happened, how are they going to react? And I just go with it, wherever they take me, if that sounds weird. But it's,
Yeah, that's
so I look forward to that. A new story, new people, new kind of personalities and challenges to deal with. Your turn. I'm just rambling.
Okay. I don't worry too much about it, I got a wild imagination. I don't have any off buttons. I do keep a notebook where I write down ideas. Sometimes I have a dream and I write that down. I get that notebook down. There's more ideas in that notebook than I'd have to live to be 120 to write all those ideas down. Plus, a couple of my books and short stories, I leave it open. And this one that I'm working on now, it's wide open for a sequel. So.
Well, most of you know that we just finished our Poemsmiths anthology that I put together that took 7 years. And so now, and that came about in just such a totally different way. You'll be reading about that in the Inkslinger pretty soon. But my next project, I have several projects. I have a memoir that went through the original Wordsmiths. It's been sitting around in paperback proof form, and it's called No One's Pal, My First Year as an Elementary School Principal. And because it sat for so long, which is probably good, I need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb again and see if I need to change anything. But my next project, I've decided, and I decided that I can only do one project at a time, but I still have to do the marketing part of the poetry anthology with my launch team's help. But my next project is I brought my mom into the Writers Club. She brought me into the Artist Club. And she was writing a column for The View, for the Sun City, for 3.5 years. And people would come up to us at church. They read her column, the first thing, when they got their View magazine. So I got the rights to that. I happened to notice one day that at the bottom of it, the first page, it said that they had all the rights. And I thought, oh my gosh, stop writing for them or something. They can't have all the rights, but I wrote the manager and she got the rights back for me. So my next project, and Jenny is going to help me with this, is putting those into book form. So I've started doing that. So that's my next project.
I was thinking while we were all talking that when I wrote the Winds of Grace series, how I got the idea for the story was from an Avon catalog. There was a clothing catalog, bathing suits, coats, dresses, and there were 2 women in that catalog that came every month. One was black, one was white, and they always kept them together. They had all these different models, but these 2 women they kept together. One was brown hair, the other one, she was just, they looked like the same woman, but a different color of skin. And I started noticing that after a while. I'm like, they always keep them together. And the thought came to me, what if they were sisters and they didn't know it? And it was just from an Avon catalog. And I started playing around with that. Well, why wouldn't they know they were sisters? How come they wouldn't know? Because one was born in Jamaica and the other one was born in South Carolina. But why? And I just kept, why? And next thing you know, I came up with the Winds of Grace. She was born in South Carolina. Her mother told her her father was dead. He wasn't. He was in Jamaica. And he had this other daughter right after they had left. And he didn't tell her, or she didn't tell her husband, I'm pregnant, when she left. So he didn't know about Grace, and Grace didn't know about Kendra. And that started the whole story.
Wow. Something that you said, Laura, about not wanting to get your characters in trouble. One of the things I learned about writing early on was you want to get your characters in the most trouble you can get them in. I'm currently reading Byron Ward's book, Death and Duty. And it's absolutely incredible because as you're reading it, you think, okay, I've got this, and then all of a sudden the main character gets into more trouble than I have ever seen anybody get into. And it's fascinating. The whole time you're saying, okay, how in the world is he going to get through this? Everything is going against him. So making your characters have trouble and have problems and look like they're never going to be able to get out of this is a wonderful way to engage your readers. Okay, this is a big question. I had a long discussion with my son-in-law this week about grammar and punctuation. And he is so frustrated because he said, did you know that grammar and punctuation changes? And I said, yes, I did know that. And he is so furious. So my question to you is, how do you guys keep up with all the changes in punctuation, grammar? There are some words that used to be 2 words and now they're 1 word put together. All of this seems to be fluid. How do you guys keep up with it as you're writing?
Well, number one, I'm the worst one for that. I'm not good with grammar. I'm not good with commas or any of these things. I write and hope that I get them in the right place. Generally, when my books are edited, Jenny's taking out the commas and telling me where to put the commas in. But when I was in the critique group with Mary Thompson, she was my comma person. She would just show me where all the places were supposed to go. But there is a good book, and I learned this from conference, has all the rules about comma. And sometimes if I'm in trouble and I need to look, I do go to this particular book too. It helps me.
Tell us the title of it.
It's the Blue Book of Grammar and Punctuation, The Mysteries of Grammar and Puncture Revealed. So, you're welcome to look at it.
I think I have a little advantage because I taught high school English for 15 years. And maybe some of you heard of the book called Warreners, which became a laughing stock at our English department because everybody hated that book. It was just straight grammar. But it is changing. But I have a reason for when I put a comma there that I can say in my head what that reason is. And I've read a lot of commentary, like Kurt Vonnegut said, don't use semicolons because it just means you're a college graduate and you're showing off, so don't do that. So I avoid semicolons. Jenny, when we had the memoir project at the high school, taught those kids about the Oxford comma. And boy, that was something because teachers aren't teaching grammar anymore. They're not teaching the term paper. Instruction is not as rigorous as it used to be in the writing area. And we're suffering from it. And Anita keeps us up to date in our Poemsmiths on grammar too, because it is changing. So I think that's one of the good things about critique groups too. It keeps you on track with the grammar.
I take the fifth. Mike, how could you ask such a question? In a word, Jenny.
Same thing, through editors and the critique group and just learning myself, and once in a while I cheat and go to the internet. Does but sound better here, or and? You know, that kind of thing. What's more, grammatically correct? I'm not good with grammar. I'm getting better, but not. So, anyway.
Well, with a lot of stuff you do get better after 70 years of writing.
Well, the signs in stores and on the streets, like it will say, drive slow. I want to jump out of the car and add the LY to it. It's an adverb, for Pete's sake. So all around us, our culture does not foster grammar.
Absolutely. So there are some resources. Anita has turned me on to the CMOS, which is Cambridge. Chicago Manual of Style. Yeah, Chicago, thank you. Cambridge hit my head. The Chicago Manual of Style. And it is a wonderful resource. Thick, giant book, full of things about punctuation and grammar. There are other resources out there. I use the internet. I'll type in, which is grammatically correct, and I'll type in both ways, and it'll come back and talk to me about it. Richard Spencer uses AI, asks questions, and that is not cheating. That is not cheating as a writer. If you're asking AI a grammar question or a punctuation question, that's not using AI to write your work. That's just doing the same thing you'd be doing looking at the CMOS or having a critique group or somebody else give you points on grammar. Completely different than somebody who goes to AI and says, hey, write me a chapter where this happens. Okay, I have one more question for you. I just finished reading a book about from a writer who is a very regimented writer. She has a routine. She gets up in the morning. She walks her dog. She has several writing stations in her home, and she is extremely disciplined as far as she starts the morning writing 3 pages longhand. Just has a real formula for how she writes. How do you guys write? Do you have a formula? Do you have a regimen, or what do you do?
I do. It's better for me if I get up around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Not much is going on, the world's quiet, and I feel like I can just sit down and start writing. I like to write a full chapter when I do, and it's all handwritten. And then after I write that, later in the afternoon, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the computer. But it isn't always in one place. Sometimes if I notice that it's nice outside, then I want to go sit outside on my patio and I want to write. I want the feeling of writing to feel good and welcoming to me. So when I do, I like to sit where it feels best to write. And sometimes, like if I'm doing more of a romantic book, I'll put a bouquet of flowers on the table. I'll have my coffee. I just kind of set an ambiance for me before I even get started. But the other thing I do, if I'm writing chapter 2, 14, wherever I'm at, I read the chapter I wrote yesterday. It's already typed in. I read that so that by the time I'm done getting to the end of that chapter, I'm going right into the next chapter. I know where I'm at and I'm not lost in the story.
Okay, it's different with different genres. I do like to write in the morning after breakfast and then run my errands in the afternoon. But I'm newly married and that's kind of gone out the window because we have opposite circadian rhythms, apparently. But for Poemsmiths, for writing poetry, it's the critique group that if a poem hasn't come to me or a line hasn't come to me by a certain time, then I'll go seek out writing prompts or listen to dialogue, or like the other morning, we'd look at the birds out the window at breakfast and Sam said, yeah, that hawk has a bib on. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's great. So I steal lines from other people too. But I usually have a poem by the time of Poemsmiths. Deadlines are great.
God, you gotta be kidding. I'm the opposite of a controlled writer. And it's strange because I'm kind of a compulsive person, but I live with 4 dogs, and I used to live with 4 dogs and cats and horse and goats and stuff. So I'm a morning person as far as getting the chores done, and then by afternoon I settle down. But one thing I like to say about that is to get in the groove, I go over some of the material I wrote the day before. It gets me kind of warmed up, the juice is going, and then I go right into material. Plus during the day and then in the evenings, especially when I'm trying to sleep, certain lines come in. I go, oh, I could do this other word differently, or this sentence differently, or switch it back, and then I remember. When I might forget at the time, but then when I go back to work, oh yeah, this sentence, I wanted to work on it and stuff like that. And it saves time, you know. So it's for me, it works.
I'm very similar to Marilyn. I get up at like 5:36 and have hot chocolate almost every morning. It's my, anyway, and same thing, if it's nice outside, I'll go outside. One of the things that I do read also what I wrote before to get into the next writing. And but I use music also. I like music, especially instrumental, and it really helps with certain scenes that I'm writing to motivate me, and I don't know, it enhances it to me. So I use music a lot. I really love music. And so from, I don't know, just John Barry type music to Kevin Kern to, I mean, I like all kinds of music, but to focus without the vocals going, that really helps me. So that's a big thing that I do. Otherwise, I get up and I can go outside if it's nice. I like to go out and write, get out in nature.
So notice how you say things and how you write things says a lot about you. So I'm going to leave you with one thought as we go to break. Notice what Mike said. He said, I live with 4 dogs. And think about what he's actually telling you. Who's in charge in this house?
Nikki,
All right, we're going to take a 15-minute break. Again, the snacks are there. Sandy, thank you so much, and enjoy your time with your friends. Before we start up again, can I please have you give a big round of applause for our panelists and for them doing this for us today? Just to tell you, this is how many of us work. Yesterday I was in my critique group with Linda, and Linda hands me 4 pages of notes that she's made for today. Because I gave the questions to her and the other panelists ahead of time. She had written 4 pages of notes, and I said, no, I don't want you to bring notes. This is a conversation. This is you just sharing with us. I don't want you reading from notes. So what happens? Everybody comes up here. 2 of the other panelists brought up notes with them, which I took away. So I just, now they're winging it. You have a microphone. I know you're all treating it like it's radioactive. Push the button, and the light will come on, and then you're there. Okay, if you'll just quickly tell us who you are and just something about what you like to write.
I'm Linda Cooper, and I write Christian fiction. My stories are all based on something other than Christianity, but there's a sub-story of Christianity in the stories. Hopefully not threatening to anybody, but enjoyable to everybody.
Have to figure out how to work this first off. I'm Lorelei Kay. My big project was writing a memoir that took me 10 years to write, but it's gotten, 4 awards. And the biggest one was Winning Writers. For all the memoirs submitted that year, I was #1. I write what I know, I guess. The memoir is what I know. I like to write poetry, but I'm realizing all the poetry I write has about things that have happened, so I'm getting a second memoir out of poetry, arranging it in the order chronologically. So I like to write what I know.
Hi, I'm Janice. I wrote a book because everyone said, oh my gosh, you should write that stuff down. So I did.
That was short and sweet. Okay. My name is Roberta Smith. I joined this club way back in 2009. I liked to write when I was a kid too, but I don't know that things were too successful back then. I didn't have enough life experience to know anything, so that's what I thought. I wrote my first novel because my mom told me to, so I did. And when I joined this club, I had that novel under my belt, and then I started really learning how to take it to another level. And since then, I have written like 7 novels and 2 books of short stories. And my genre of choice is supernatural thriller mysteries with a splash of romance.
Okay. One of the reasons why we put this together, we have a committee called the Programming Committee, the programmers, and we meet every couple of weeks and we discuss what kind of presentations that we need in our club. And we try to keep our ear to the ground and we try to listen to you and just hear what you're going through and what might be helpful to you in these presentations. And one of the things we kept hearing was we had some writers who were getting discouraged. And we felt that there were some that were getting ready to give up. I'm done writing. And we felt, well, maybe we need to have a presentation, have a morning meeting where we talk about how we continue on with our writing. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. So my question to these wonderful writers is, how do you measure success? What makes you feel successful as a writer? Because I know there are people who start writing and their measure of success, oh, I'm going to sell that best-selling book, I'm going to make millions of dollars, I'm going to be on all the talk shows. They have a view of what writing is going to do for them that seems unrealistic, and then when they don't reach it, they crash. What does success mean to you, ladies?
Well, one of the things is when you get reviews from people who don't know you that are really good reviews. Also, when you get them the opposite, where it's someone you don't know, sometimes I think they're just having a bad day because they can be vicious. But also, another way of measuring it is Mike Raff and I sell books at horror conventions, and we've had people come back and they buy another book. And we've had people come and say, we were looking for you. You weren't here at the last convention. And so you find out that there are people out there that really like your writing, and that can make you feel good because you're always questioning that. So, and then just coming to meetings, we have speakers sometimes that, I want to leave because I want to go home and write. It's different things can keep you going. So,
my level of success was when I started this, I said, this may never get further than the drawer of my desk, but I'm going to finish it. When I held that first finished book in my hand, I said, I'm a success. Anything after this, pure gravy, because I completed it. I didn't have any unrealistic expectations. I just said, when I got to the end, that was success.
Well, I've heard it said that comparison is the thief of joy. And I think sometimes when we compare ourselves with different people or different writers, it can be discouraging. And we can think, well, I don't do it that way, and I don't accomplish all this, and I don't have all the structure or whatever that some writers have. But I think we need to know inside that we are writers. We are writers. If I'm a writer, I'm a writer if I'm writing today or not. I really enjoyed the first panel, especially what was talked about. Mike Raff talked about how he was a prolific writer going through grief, and Mike mentioned about Richard Zone, how he didn't write. And I think it's important to be kind to ourselves, to be kind when there are times that we're not writing, because Mike may not know this, but I'm not doing much writing right now. And I'm kind to myself because this isn't a time right now. It will come, but it's a time to do other things, to keep going and to keep life happy and on an even keel. And so I think being kind to yourself and being graceful, giving grace to yourself, even if you're not accomplishing all the things you want to, is incredibly important to knowing you're still a writer.
The first thing I ever tried to write was in high school, and I got a rejection letter that stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't write anything again until I was 60 years old. And I just wouldn't write. Then I picked up a book by somebody that I thought would be good, and it was terrible, and I said, I can do better than that, and I started writing. And what I did, I just sat down and I had no idea what I was writing. I just sat and looked out the window and says, write about my property. That has to be a story. I had no idea where I was going. Turned into a 5-book series. And that's the way I write. And the major success, I think, one of the ladies in the house that I just moved into, I'm in a house with 5 other old ladies. And one of the ladies would not listen to anything anybody was trying to tell her about Christianity. And she will not listen. Well, finally, and she didn't like to read. Finally, she said, can I read one of your books? And she asked, can I read the next one? Can I read the next one? And she enjoyed it. And when she read all my books and came back wanting to know there were more, I said, now that's a measure of success.
Excellent, excellent. What you said, Linda, about rejection and how that affected you for decades, that is so powerful. We are going to be starting something new in the club. We have an Act 2 meeting. I'm going to be running it at the end of the month, and we're going to talk about rejection, because we need to redefine rejection. We need to change our view of rejection, and we're going to help you do that, because rejection can be the one thing that stops you, just stops you dead in your tracks. Somebody is unkind. I was looking for an agent at one point, and I sent my proposal to this one agent, and he wrote me back, and it was so mean. He wrote back and he sent me back my proposal, and across the top of it wrote, "Not for me." Oh, what a jerk. Now, I got rid of that. I wish I'd held on to it, because my goal was to sell the book for millions of dollars and then send him a copy of the check and write, "Not for you." We can't let people stop us. We just can't, because there are some people who take joy in stopping us. Can't let that happen. So we're going to try to continually encourage each other. Just keep going. Keep going. You don't know when your best book is going to come out. It's still in you. You have not written your best book yet. You haven't had your best idea. When you come in May and listen to John Garner, John thought he'd written his best book. He was wrong. Now he's written this wonderful book, and I know he still has more books in him. So Mike and I were at a special event last week for the Options for Youth people. And it was a job fair, and Mike and I had a table, and we met all these wonderful high schoolers. And we were talking to them about writing. And many of them asked the same question. These are young people, they're just starting, and they said, what advice would you give to a new writer? So I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting? They're just beginning in writing. So please.
Well, I heard once, whatever genre you're writing in, you should read 30 books in that genre. And I did. I read 30 memoirs or more. And I think that's really important. And also, when you're reading, you may find a book that really inspires you somehow, a book that I would pick up and read when I was, maybe I should pick it up right now and read it, right? Giving advice. It's called An American Boy. And I don't know what there was about the writing in that book, but it just tantalized my writing. It just stoked my writing fire. It just got me motivated somehow. And so if you read other writing, and you can, not that you're copying, not that you're stealing, but that you're getting ideas and it fans the fire of your writing, I think that's really good. But I also think it's crucial to read so many books on grammar and punctuation and writing and the art of writing and the craft of writing and how to make your writing better. Because you can learn a lot at the meetings, but a lot of those things you really need to internalize, and there's so many wonderful books on that, and to read those can help you as you're writing, and so you don't make a lot of mistakes that you wouldn't have to make if you didn't just have a little bit more knowledge.
I'm going to say the polar opposite. I broke every single rule of grammar and writing. Every single one. I broke the fourth plane. I talk to you like we're having a conversation in my book. My grammar is absolutely beyond atrocious. Thank you, Ginny. And she read my book, Ginny edited, and she said, you did everything wrong. And it works. And it's amazing. I would say, do it. Who cares? Who cares? Do it. I got a text from someone and she said, I read your book and your book is going to help people. And I'm one of those people. And it broke all the rules. Just do it.
Just do it is the thing I've told people. I've at these conventions in different places where I've been selling books, I've gotten that question. A new writer, how do I start? What do I do? And you got to just get it down on the paper and don't make it perfect. Just get it and keep going. And because it's so easy to go back and, okay, let me rewrite and fix it before you move on. But don't stop yourself, because if you want to do it, that's how you get it done. So.
My suggestion, and I give it to my friends, I have kids at church and young people at church that come, that they want to write, and I say, stop thinking about it and write. We think about it, we never put pen to paper, and it never gets done. And another thing I do is, I tell them, don't always start at the start. You get an idea, write it, put it in a file that says story ideas, get the next idea, go ahead and write it. Don't worry about order. In time, you're going to get the order that you want your book, and those story ideas may work in that book. They may work in your 11th book down the line. I've got 11 books published now and 5 more I'm working on, besides a couple Bible studies. But you put those ideas aside. You get an idea, you get it into a file. You may not look for it for another year or two, but it may be just what you need for just a certain scene or a certain story. And just do it. Don't just think about it.
So I was raised here in California. My family is from Oklahoma. And we would visit from time to time, and I did not understand my family. They just made no sense to me whatsoever. Until I read Janice's book. I'm serious. I read Janice's book and I went to her and I said, I get it now. I understand my family. Of course, her book is bar whores, and life lessons. And boy, that's my family, my Oklahoma family. They have a different culture that I did not understand, again, until I read your book. And that's another reason why we write, because our writing can be clarifying for other people. It can give them information and understanding that they never had before. So thank you guys for that. That was really helpful. I'm writing my memoir, and I'm finishing it up right now and polishing it. And the center event in the memoir is something that happened 20 years ago. It took me 20 years to be able to write about it. And I've been reading it to my wife, and we've been talking about it, and there are parts I just can't read. I break down. How do you know when you're ready? When you're ready to put something difficult, emotional, hard to write, something that you've been avoiding, how do you know that you're ready to start writing that? Nobody wants to take it? Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. No.
What are we doing?
Go ahead. Sorry.
You got it?
Okay, I've got it. So when I can't get a thought out of my mind, I'm ready to write. If I think about it and it doesn't stay with me, it goes in my ideas folder. And if I can't get it out of my mind, if I'm writing something else, I set it aside and I work on that because I can't lose it. And sometimes when you're writing, I don't care if it's fiction or if it's something that hits you, you'll sit at the keyboard and you'll laugh yourself silly at what you're writing. Other times you'll sit there and bawl your eyes out over a fictional character. Because I don't care who you are or what you write, you put an awful lot of yourself into the story. You tell people a lot more about you than you think you are. But quite often, even though I'm writing a fictional character, I'm writing about something that either happened to me or somebody in my past that I knew, and the emotions are there, and you fall in love with your characters. And if you don't fall in love with your characters, or they don't hurt you, or they don't make you laugh, they're not going to do it to your audience either. So when you feel that way, just go with it.
Well, sometimes the way to write through a painful topic is because your editor says you can't leave that part out. That's what when I was writing From Mormon to Mermaid, I didn't want to write about the divorce. I mean, it was a horrible, dark time in my life. And so, I'm telling the story. He says, you just can't go along telling the story and say, and then we got divorced. You have to say how that happened. Well, I didn't want to do that. I said, that's a whole other book. I don't want to go into that. But because he said I had to. That's why I did it. And I guess it's therapeutic. It's also difficult, but I wrote that because I had to. There had been enough time then that I could do that, and sometimes you just need more time. Like you say, it's been 20 years, so it gives you time, and even then it can be difficult. But if the editor says you have to put that in, that's when I did it.
I spent a lot of time protecting my so-called characters. My book is real, the people are fictionalized. And something happened that I decided we're going to use this as the catharsis. And I said, burn it down. And I started writing. I used a very, very painful moment. And I took that as my jumping off point. And I said, burn it down. And we started going.
I have not written a memoir about myself, and I probably won't because I'm not as brave as the rest of you. So.
That is not true.
So.
But no, your characters, though, your characters are very powerful.
Oh, yes.
They're living people, in my head at least.
I'm in love with little Simone.
Yeah.
I just think she's awesome.
Well, it's true. Pieces of yourself, they show up. Like there's lines in there, and I'm like, ooh, that's me, but nobody knows it.
My daughter will not read my books because she says, Dad, all I hear is your voice. So yeah, that could be a detriment too. I have one last question for you. When we're writing, it's like we're performing. We're putting on a performance and we have an audience. When you're writing, how much do you think about your readers? Are you writing for a particular group of readers? Do you target who you think is going to pick up your book and want to read it? Does that affect your writing? And what do you do when you know you're going to tick somebody off with your writing? You know there's somebody that's going to be so mad that you wrote what you wrote. How do you deal with that?
I really write for myself. Since the time I was little, loved ghosts. I loved movies that were about ghosts. I loved weird, strange, things like that. And so that's what I write. I don't really try to write anything outside of what pleases me. You know, oh, this is what I would like to see be a movie. Oh, this is what I would like to read somebody else. And lately, we talked about you should read, you read 30 memoirs before you wrote yours. I had an epiphany of I need to read what I like to write. And I have discovered this writer. I just love her. I've now read, in the past, 3 months, read 5 of her books. And some other authors too. And they write in the genre that I prefer. And it's inspiring me to keep going and want to write some more, even though right now in my life I can't do it because I'm just too busy with other stuff. But I'll get there. So.
I knew everything I wrote was going to make somebody mad. Every word. The disclaimer in the front of my book says, if you don't like the way you were painted here, you should have treated me better. And I don't care. I knew it was going to make people mad, but I also knew that somewhere out there was a little girl who needed to read exactly what I wrote. And I kept her in mind. I write like we're in a room having a conversation. I write like I'm among friends. I'm not for everybody, and I know that. I'm a lot. I'm a whole lot. I'm a pip. I'm a party in progress. But I knew it was going to make a difference to one person. And that little girl out there needed me.
Hard to follow that. I think I write for myself, but I also keep in mind, when I was growing up, my dad sat me down and helped me write my first poem. And I think in some ways I still write for him, or still feel that he would have some joy in knowing what I'm writing. And I think that that's a positive influence on me. His early encouragement and help me feel that I could do it and I was a good writer still helps me feel that perhaps I'm writing for him.
Well, I write basically for me, I think. What I write, my stories all start out probably as a memoir where I'm somewhere where I am, or it's a dream I had, and I go from there, and I'm a seat of the pants writer. It's just one scene leads to the next, to the next, to the next. But I have a goal usually at the end where I'm trying to reach, and I might wiggle all over the place getting there, but I'll get there eventually. But I know that what I write upsets people. I know that, well, in my Christian writing, sometimes it's doctrinal stuff, and I know that everybody don't agree with me. And I know that if unbelievers read what I read, they're not going to like everything I write. But I try to put it in a way that you understand, or they understand what it is I'm writing without upsetting people. But sometimes I still upset them. But if I believe it, it's going to go in there. And it doesn't matter how much it upsets you. I don't like it. I don't like upsetting people, but I'm going to tell it the way I believe it. And in my fiction, it's the same thing. Even though it's fictional stories, I'm getting a point across that I want people to understand. And I'll work to get that understanding out there.
Linda and I are in a critique group together, and she and I debate theology all the time. And she has been writing at the top of the page of her submissions, Mike, I know you won't agree with me on this. but I'm writing it anyway. Now, we do have a few minutes for questions, so please.
Well, first,
Sandy.
I want to say, I think I've enjoyed today more than some of all of the other times. I really have enjoyed the panels. Thank you very much for sharing with us. And I wanted to ask, have any of you ever gotten an approval or an endorsement from a very important person? So you could have that on the back side of your book. Have you ever done that, or is that not important to you? And if you have, how did you go about doing it?
Okay, so for the people on Zoom, the question was, have you ever gotten an important endorsement? Have you ever sought an endorsement? Is that important to you as a writer? So you have a microphone.
Dog Ear Publishing was the first publisher for Mormon to Mermaid, and the editor there gave it an award of literary excellence, and I quote her little blurb on my book. I think that blurb was important. It just came. It didn't just come. Heck, it took 10 years to write that book to get it to the point where she'd give it the award of literary excellence. But yeah, that blurb, that was very meaningful to me. I don't know how much that means to me personally, but I know that when it comes to selling your book, if that's your goal, it's very important to your public.
I got nothing.
My first book, when I went out and sought quotes from like bloggers, not famous people, but people that are out there writing about books and who love to read. And so I put them on my cover.
Excellent. Any other questions you guys might have?
Well, it's not a question, it's a comment.
Oh, please.
So
Elizabeth.
I really appreciate all your insights from more experienced writers. I'm still new at writing in a more structured way. That's why I wanted to leave LA to move to a more subtle area and isolate and focus on the craft of writing. But I've also found it really helpful to also launch a couple of book clubs. So that holds me accountable to become a better reader, therefore a better writer. I have an English book club as well as a Spanish book club. And I want to perfect the art of writing in both languages. I feel that as writers, we write. It's part of our testimony as well as part of our testament. That's what we leave behind. With everything else, our physical belongings, the book is going to be here forever and ever and ever. So that's beautiful. As Mike said one time, only 1% get it published, get it out there into the hands of other readers. I think that's a beautiful gift in itself. Thank you for sharing your tips and strategies. So I'm looking forward to more books from my peers here, as well as my second book myself. Thank you.
I read your book, baby. You are doing just fine.
Thank you.
Please, Linda.
I was so glad that Lauralee mentioned her father, because I had the privilege of reading the booklet that you and your sister put together of poems that he wrote to your mother during the war. I found it just to be delightful and so encouraging that I was wondering if it's available on Amazon in case anybody else would want to look at that. And also, thanks to everyone. This was fantastic. Really, really helpful.
Well, she says plug your book. Yes, it is available on Amazon. It's called A Soldier and His Redhead, because my mom always got her biggest, publicity in our family. The biggest thing about her was that she was a redhead, and that seemed to explain a lot of things about my mother, if that makes sense. But
that's one thing I learned in the club. I went with Dog Ear Publishing because they presented at one of our conferences, and that was fine, but later on, learning about how you can do all this on Amazon, although I'm glad I went with them because there were many advantages there. But now, of course, it's on Amazon, and I'm sure all our books now are on Amazon, which is really the way to do it. My father published a book back in the day, way back when, and it would have cost a fortune to get it published. He actually had to buy this printing machine, and he was in the living room in our small house. They were cranking out the pages and collating and putting it all together. And oh, it's so much easier now, ladies. He was dedicated. I guess I inherited that, but it's so much easier now to get things published.
This is a wonderful way to get to know our members better as well.
Boy, that puts a whole different spin on self-publishing. Okay, I want us to give our panelists one last applause and thank them again for doing this for us. And Mike Raff, we have a raffle today, so